Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we'll be taking a look at the Halikar Wraith, the weapon that Baro brought over the weekend. Now this weapon is so new, you can't even link it in chat to check its stats yet. It is strictly an upgrade to the vanilla variant. And this is the build I ended up settling on. I found it was pretty hard to make a heavy build for it, so instead we're going for the volatile quick return power throw setup on a viral build. I'm testing on level 150 heavy gunners, and you basically hold E every single time after you throw so that it blows it up, as well as queuing up the next throw when it comes back. Now how about we try this with Zephyr's passive. She gains an extra 150% modded crit chance when she is in the air. I'm getting a little bit more oranges, but overall the weapon is quite underwhelming using it in this manner. So the volatile quick return build is out. Now let's try that heavy build instead. My polarities are a little bit messed up, so I can't use primed Fever Strike, but that's fine. We can extrapolate a little bit based on the results. I'm going to be swapping out the volatile quick return and power throw for corrupt charge and killing blow. I'll have to move around the viral mods a little bit here. So let's try this again. If I throw and explode, well, it does barely any more damage than the initial throw on the power throw setup, and once power throw stacked up, it just doesn't compare. However, with heavy throws, you can throw above their heads and aim for headshots instead. It doesn't seem to be working very well either though, with rather lackluster damage. It has good initial hits, nothing amazing, but its inability to proc slash on the explosion makes it fall really far behind. I'll even try it again with Zephyr's jump, and you'll see it doesn't make that much of a difference. Now for the detonating builds, there is one saving grace though. This weapon is listed as a 0.5 disposition glaive, but actually the mod shows 1.0 disposition, and it's not even 1.0, it's actually using the base Halikar's variant when you calculate the arsenal stats, which is 1.44. And actually melee damage is good on this build because from the testing I did earlier, it shows condition overload does not work on the explosion damage. So this is actually a good roll on a heavy setup. Getting back to that 1.44 disposition, I know it's actually that much because if we take a look here, Sacrificial Steel is 275% and it pushed us to 71.3. This Halikar Riven is only 224%, but look, it pushes us all the way up to 80. So what this means is if it's actually using Halikar's disposition, we're getting something closer to 310%. And this actually lines up with what the critical chance stat shows. So let's take this out for a spin and see how much of a super high disposition Riven can make. First we're going to use our volatile quick return build again. And would you look at that, now it kills them in 3 hits and you have a stacked up power throw. At this point any 2 hits will kill these heavy gunners on contact. Now I was trying to use this with a Kuva Newport to prime them as well, but it doesn't seem like it was working out very well. Even though it didn't always interrupt the power throw stacks, it seems like on the back end it always reset. Now the reason why I'm not that impressed by the Halikar Wraith so far is because the Glaive Prime exists, so let's swap to that. So we'll basically be comparing Riven to Riven builds. Now the Glaive Prime actually has forced slash on the detonation, and this is extremely strong because it'll bypass all the armor. This is actually radiation build and they're weak to corrosive, and I also had the wrong smite on. So I'm gonna throw again above their heads this time, and it doesn't seem to make that much of a difference as the bulk of the damage is from the slash itself and not the actual glaive detonation. So let's actually put on the right smite and change it to viral instead. I have to run a rank 0 Vicious Frost because of polarity problems, but that should be fine. And I do a bit more damage than the initial throw, and they basically die to a single slash tick. That's just how strong the proper build is. So coming back to the Halikar Wraith, this is why I'm a little bit concerned about its detonation or volatile return setups. It just can't really seem to compete with what the Glaive Prime does despite having that monster bug disposition. I don't really know if it's going to stay like this, DE is probably going to patch it out, so I can't advocate getting a Riven for it. On the other hand, how does it work as a normal melee? Well, let's take a look at that. I feel the most important part of this build is actually the range. You can see here I have 4.2 meters with prime reach on that gives 3, which means the base range is only 1.2. So you're actually multiplying the base range by over 3 times slotting this mod on. I found it was nearly unusable without it, so unlike some melee weapons, I would consider this a mandatory mod. The rest of the build is your very standard setup. I actually couldn't fit the prime smite on because of primed reach, which means we're losing a lot of damage. Then we're obviously running Berserker as normal to get our strongest source of attack speed. But honestly, this is not the best way to use this weapon. As I said, we're losing a huge amount of damage due to being unable to slot the prime smite. So instead I'm going to swap over to Volt for a speed in a bit. Another important part of this build is you really want to be using Naramon so that you can really keep up your status combo and it never fully depletes. You can also run Swift Momentum or Drifting Contact, but I can't really see how you could fit Drifting Contact on the build. You're running Volt, now this means you can drop off Berserker for Prime Smite Grenier, so let's see how that handles. Well, as you're first building up combo, it's a little bit more difficult to kill them, but it does get the job done. Let's spawn this again while you're at max combo on your glaive. Well, that is the bug throw that can happen if you're tapping E too fast at high speed, so we're gonna have to restart. This is where I feel the true power of the glaive shines as a normal melee weapon. You have the 4.2 meters, except some of the attacks throw the glaive outwards, extended even further. You're able to use prime reach to its full extent and really easily spread the viral to take care of these enemies. So although the stats are a little bit lackluster, this is where Halikar Wraith really manages to excel by sourcing a good stance, that extreme range as well as attack speed. Now if I don't run a source of attack speed, I actually can't afford to run primed reach anymore if I still want to maintain the high damage from the primed smite. The damage is still there, but the range is really suffering, and I'm basically only targeting 1 or 2 enemies at a time, which makes it very difficult to clear crowds. This is probably a decent build to deal with Demolist and Disruption, but if you're just going for normal gameplay or high level endurance to level cap, you won't be able to kill mobs that efficiently. Now on the other hand, what type of showcase wouldn't be complete for melee without using Kuva Nukor? If I do prime them up, you can kill them very quickly, which sort of salvages the fact that you lack range since you can move between enemies so fast. But it still just isn't really the same as actually having prime reach on the build. So let's drop that one more time, slot prime reach back on, and we'll actually use our speed buffs with Nukor. And that was pretty much a blink of an eye, everything is dead. So what is my conclusion? Well, if you do want to use the Halikar Wraith as a normal weapon, definitely bring a source of attack speed buff such as Warcry, Volt Speed, or Haste modes. That way you can still keep the massive range and the smite. As a thrown glaive, I really just don't feel the potential is there. Even with the crazy disposition on the weapon, it just doesn't hold a candle up to what Glaive Prime can do with its 4/procs to double dip in on the Prime Smite. For Rivens, I can't really recommend getting one, despite the Riven being actually so sky high at 1.44, because it is technically a bug and you never know when DE will patch it out, maybe back down to 1.0 or even to 0.5 as the arsenal actually shows it at. If this was your first time watching, feel free to leave a like or better yet subscribe. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. 74.8% of you are not subscribed. You may want to reconsider, as I'll be making sure to be the first one to cover Tempest Starry when it drops, as well as any further tips and tricks. That'll be it for this video. Thank you all for watching and see you all next time.